Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Scott, and I'm here with Lydia Kluhl. We're here with our first debate for the Walker County Commission race, and we're joined by all three candidates for the Walker County Commission race: Ms. B.B. Haskell, Mr. Perry Lamb, and Mr. Shannon Whitfield. And Lydia, if you'd like to say hi.
I'll say hi. I feel a little odd sitting in this seat. This is Judy's seat.
Yeah.
Always is a little intimidating being here, but to her credit, Judy always wants to make sure that the debates you see on UCTV3 are impartial and that she has not weighed in at all. She was, in fact, absolutely no help in preparing the guidelines or the questions for this.
We tried.
We did. We tried to get her to give us some guidelines, and she said, no, it's up to you two. So we decided to handle this the way you see most political debates being handled, and that is that we will ask a series of questions rotating between the three candidates. We didn't flip a coin because, as one of the candidates pointed out, coins don't have three sides, but we did draw a name, and the name was B.B. Haskell. She will take the first question, and the way this will go is that each candidate will rotate accepting questions. The original respondent will have 2 minutes to answer, followed by 1 minute for each of the two remaining candidates who will be giving rebuttals.
Sounds good.
Yeah. We'll be keeping time, too, as well, so we will give the candidates warnings of how much time they've got left, and then if they keep talking, we'll just have to cut them off. No phones. We're not taking any calls tonight. This will just be driven by Chris and by me. Again, no help from Judy. And we'll get right to it right away. I will remind you that this is going to play not only this original evening, Tuesday night, but then throughout the week and over the next couple of days. All three of these candidates are very active, too, on social media, and so you can reach out to them if you've got any questions for them of your own. But getting right to it, I'll ask the first question there of Sole Commissioner B.B. Haskell. B.B., you have said in social media that running as an independent this year has been political suicide, or could be considered political suicide. If you would, talk a little bit about why you did choose to run as an independent and why you broke away from the Republican Party.
Well, I have worked for the Republican Party for the last 15 years and was in good crisis most of the time, but apparently they decided that they wanted to focus on a single candidate, and so I felt like they didn't support me, and I started to go ahead and run in the primary, and I decided I really didn't have to do that, and that I would rather just run as an independent than to be a candidate they weren't really supporting. Normally you wait until after the primary and then support whatever candidate actually wins the primary, but that didn't seem to be happening. So I decided to just run as an independent instead.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Perry?
I actually, unlike Ms. Haskell, I kind of took it as, did not look at it as political suicide. I liked the fact that I could run as an independent because as an independent, I felt the parties in this county controlled the candidate, controlled what needed to be said, what platform they had to run on, and who they had to listen and speak for. And as an independent, I felt that I could speak for everybody in the county. I did not have to follow a platform, or I did not have to be controlled as a puppet by any political party. So for me, I think it's great that I had that opportunity to run as an independent, although I had to get signatures, but I still think it was a great thing for myself.
Okay.
Mr. Whitfield?
Yeah, the Republican Party was asking a couple of things from Ms. Haskell, and one of those was to present a line item budget each year from her office that the citizens of Walker County could look at. Also, they were asking for BB to support a referendum of a multi-board commission, and she didn't really want to do either one of those things, didn't want to put a line item budget out, and didn't want to have a referendum for multi-boards. So I think that's a lot of the reasons why she decided not to run as a Republican. I didn't have any problem with committing to put a line item budget out. I think it needs to be out there, and also quarterly financial reports need to be done, and under my administration, those things will take place and have transparency in local government.
Okay. All right. My turn. Mr. Lamb, you mentioned on your website that you work for Erlanger Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When dealing with Erlanger Hospital as a county commissioner, would that not be a conflict of interest when Hutchison was having a battle there, I guess? Did you not? Did that seem like a conflict of interest?
Not at all. I used to work for Hutchison also. People have tried to say I've been the Erlanger candidate, which is kind of interesting. You know, what little support, financial support that I've gotten has come from surgeons that I've worked with, the surgeons that work at Memorial, at Park Ridge, and Erlanger. Mm-hmm. So they're not per se an Erlanger employee. Now there are a couple of them, but it's not. My real support from Erlanger comes every 2 weeks where I get a paycheck.
Yeah.
It's not absolutely at all going to be difficult for me to deal with Erlanger as commissioner. You know, there's a debt, and Erlanger gave money. In my belief, it's a debt that needs to be paid. I have not seen all the legal papers pertaining to the debt, so that I have to look at to make sure it's in the best interest of the people of Walker County. But dealing with them, no, there's absolutely going to be no impartiality between for them or the county. You know, it's right or wrong.
Okay. And
Mr. Whitfield?
Mr. Whitfield, how would you handle this?
Yeah, I think Erlanger's probably very happy that Perry Lamb is running in this race. I think they see that as an opportunity for them to get all their money back, and it has been pretty interesting to see through Perry's financial disclosures that the lion's share of the money that he has accepted, and it has been limited, but that he did accept from people that's also on staff and on payroll with Erlanger. So I think there's some question marks there. Whether or not you could say it's a conflict, I think that's you're going to have to make your own judgment. But I will say that they probably are very happy that he is running.
Maybe?
Ms. Haskell?
I don't think he ran because he was an Erlanger employee, and I don't know if they'd be happy. They'd be happy if anybody paid them. And I don't have a problem with paying them, except that I don't think they fulfilled their part of the bargain, and that's the reason for my reluctance. And I don't know quite how this is going to pan out, but we're working it through. But really, I don't see a problem with Perry Lamb working for Erlanger and also for County Commissioner.
Okay.
Next question goes to Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield, let's stay on the theme of Hutchison. Do you believe that Erlanger did not honor its commitment in its deal with Hutchison?
Well, I think that's hard for anybody on the outside to be able to make the determination, because it's our understanding from what Ms. Haskell's put out that the commitments supposedly that Erlanger made about different things that they were going to do to the facility and the property and upgrades and things were all a verbal conversation over dinner one night. So it's hard to know whether or not that they fulfilled their obligations or not. But I think it's pretty clear from what the court system said. The judge made the comment that regardless, they made things better. They brought the hospital back closer to profitability than what the prior administration of running the hospital had done. So they were not found at fault, and that's why the cross-claim suit that Walker County filed against Erlanger got thrown out. The judge says there was no basis to that argument, and so they had all the information, and any documentation, I'm sure, that Don Oliver and Stuart James had to present was put in front of the federal court judge, who come back and decided that there's no value or no substance to that cross-claim and threw that lawsuit out.
Okay.
Bibi?
Bibi, would you like to respond to that?
Well, I know that some of the things that were filed with the judge were late. Two motions were late. He was pretty angry about that. But nobody has heard the opposite side. Actually, Erlanger sued the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees turned around and sued them back. And that suit is still out there. And they've made some offers and spent a lot of money to try to get rid of it. And so I really don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'd like to see the people at the hospital that literally lost because they stayed till the last day. I'd like to see them recover what they lost. And going through the court system is the only way they'll ever recover that.
Perry?
I too would like to see all the pertinent information on the lawsuit to be able to make an educated decision and to see what all was said they were going to do, what they didn't do. I had asked one time, or I guess I had challenged Mr. James to put out all the paperwork, Stuart James, the attorney, and I never saw any of it. So it's one of those things until I'm in the commissioner's seat and I can actually sit down and look and see what all went on, was said, paper signed, will I know better of what was and was not done.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. My next question is for Beebe High School. Your opponents have both on their websites and social media, they've mentioned reducing spending in the county. I know Mr. Whitfield said he would reduce spending by $1 million. Do you see anywhere that Walker County could cut $1
I know
million?
that we will have to cut, and I know things that we can do. They may not be popular, but we'll probably have to do those things. You know, we've been through the worst recession since the Great Depression, and since 2008, we've had serious problems making ends meet, not wanting to raise taxes on people that were also having a hard time making ends meet. So we've juggled money and done the best that we could with what we had to work with. And there are a lot of things that some people really like and others think are foolish, but we try to please everybody that we can with the amount of money that we have to work with. But we will be cutting spending, yes.
Mr. Lamb?
We absolutely have to cut spending. And other than Ms. Haskell, I'm the only other one that has actually worked in government and know what kind of waste goes on in government. I've managed people. I know how government jobs are done. I know how much waste goes into them. There are practices that we can apply to this county that will save us money. We can use proper bidding practices. We can actually have a commissioner that's out on the job and knows what's going on. A commissioner that's actually done those jobs and can see how we need to save money. The way it's been, I just feel like there hasn't been close management and proper management, and I'll be a commissioner that won't sit behind a desk. It'll be me making sure the job's done correctly and efficiently.
Mr. Whitfield?
Yes. It's interesting to me that the commissioner says that she will start making cuts. I'm wondering why we haven't been managing the county properly over the last 15 years. And some examples, when you look at the audit from 2015, the landfill lost almost $535,000. The Mountain Cove Farms lost almost $678,000. So between those two entities alone that both have separate profit and loss statements, there's $1.2 million in savings between those two. When I went to the commissioner's budget meeting back about 3 weeks ago, I brought up the question, where is the budget for the landfill? Where's the budget for Mountain Cove Farms? And the response I got back was, well, it's not required by state law that we take and do a budget on either of those entities. So two things that's draining the county substantially in cash, we don't even have a budget for. So the staff and employees don't know what their targets are, what their goals are, or even a way to manage and control expenses. So we've got to put some business management principles in place to be able to take and manage our debt.
Time's up. Okay. All right. This next question is for Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb, I noticed on your Facebook page of your ideas and thoughts for what you would do as commissioner, one of them was increasing fire personnel by 50%. It's a very significant number. Why do you think that's necessary?
For a few reasons. 50%, we have 70 volunteer personnel right now. We used to have over 200. When you increase a volunteer, I used to be a volunteer. I was on Hamilton County Stars. a volunteer does more than just volunteer
Yeah.
for that one department. They become a community activist. They become excited about their community. And what we need in this community are people that are excited. I've talked to many, going door to door, I talk to many people, thousands of people. And I've talked to past volunteers. And they want to play an active part in our volunteer program. The job of the commissioner is to give a service to the people. One of my jobs as commissioner is to make sure the people in this county are safe. And the fire department is one that I can have an impact on, a huge impact on. And I've spent a lot of time talking with Chief Camp. I've spent a lot of time talking with the fire department personnel. I know that they want to be a part of it. I know that Chief Camp wants to increase the volunteers. Not only is it going to provide the best service, we just had a tragic fire in Somerville. We can't let that happen. Accidents are going to happen, but we have to give the best protection that we can. And increasing the personnel just by 35 is a start. I want to see it back to 200. I'll get it back to 200. They've got to have 60 hours to be viable right now, 120 to be a full-fledged. There's ways we can do this, and I can do this. And that is my goal, and I'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Whitfield?
The volunteer firemen are very important to the emergency management system in Walker County. They've always played a very vital part, and volunteer firemen were protecting our community long before we had paid staff. I think the big question is to find out why these volunteers have left. Why has over 50% of the volunteers that we've had, why have they all left? What is it with Walker County Emergency Management that has made these people happy? So we need to reach out to them and see what we need to do to mend those fences and get those volunteers back engaged and back motivated to want to be a part of the Walker County Fire Department.
Bibi?
When I took office, our brush trucks didn't even have any lights. Everything we had except for about 15 pieces of equipment had come from surplus, and it was a really bad situation. Our ISO rating was 6/9, and we have come a long, long way to build our ISO rating to a 3/8B, which is very good. It's as good as you can be for a volunteer fire department. We've got a lot of equipment. We've gotten a lot of grants. Chief Camp's done a good job. We don't have as many volunteers to do anything as we used to because everybody's got something else to do. Now, I don't know any volunteers that wish they could come, but we don't provide enough for them so that they won't come. I don't know. But nobody has as many volunteers as they used to. And of course, I don't know if we've done anything to keep them away or run them away. I don't know that. But I would certainly, we pay the volunteers for their time. And so I'm not sure why we don't have volunteers, but we can always use more personnel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This question goes to Mr. Whitfield. On your webpage, you said that you would rid the county of a full-time attorney. Replace the six-figure salary, he gets benefits, vehicle, replace it with outsourcing of legal activities. How cost-effective would this be, and would a outsourcing legal, how would it benefit the county?
Well, that's one of the things that I started with this campaign is looking at the cost structure and the expense load on our citizens. We're the only county that I'm aware of here in North Georgia that has a full-time county attorney. And in many cases, the full-time county attorney is the first one at the negotiating table and the first one trying to put the deals together. I come from a business background where the leadership and the management sits down and negotiates the deals and negotiates the contracts, and once you get everything on paper and get an outline, then you take that information to the attorney last. You bring the attorney to the dance last to make everything legal and to put everything into place. I think the way you've seen the county being run over the last 15 years, if you look at the amount of lawsuits that we've been in, you look at this mess that we're in with Hutchinson and Erlanger, we've had an attorney leading the pack here and leading the process of these issues that we've had in the county. So I think we need to also look at attorneys or specialty. They are getting more into the marketplace of specializing in their trade. And so from time to time, you may have multiple attorneys working on different projects that's in their area of expertise. We see that going on now where we have a staff attorney that's outsourcing work on a regular basis. And so why have a gatekeeper attorney on staff to divvy up work to other attorneys that specialize in those areas? Why can't the commissioner be that person to be the gatekeeper and delegate that work out to attorneys that specialize in those areas that we may have an issue or need to put a contract or a lawsuit and negotiate that deal that needs to be done, and not have someone on staff that's just creating more work for themselves?
All right. Baby?
There's a requirement to have a county attorney. All counties name a county attorney. They might not be on the staff, but you have to have one. Now, the county attorney represents every employee that has a problem. They represent every elected official that has a problem. They stay busy all the time, mostly with the sheriff's department, because that's mainly where those lawsuits come. But the county attorney stays busy all the time, and more than negotiating, he's busy putting out fires and things like that. And we also do, if you're going to court, he doesn't go to court. They hire a lawyer to go to court, because he doesn't try cases. He simply does county law. And you would need one, even if it's not one that you use all the time.
Okay.
Here you go.
Perry?
Mr. Lamb?
I actually agree with both my opponents. Ms. Haskell is right. We have to have a full-time attorney at $600 a year. So there has to be an attorney on staff that you can go to quickly. I also agree with Mr. Whitfield. Lawyers and cases are becoming very specialized. You don't go to, I'll use a medical term, you don't go see a brain surgeon if you break your foot. You need the commissioner to be the one to be the gatekeeper on that. They do need to determine who is the best attorney for which job. And it's also, I feel it's going to save the money. If we run this county properly, we should not have that amount of lawsuits. Now, from the sheriff's department, not a lot you can say there. That's just the nature of the business. But no, I won't have a full-time six-figure attorney on staff.
Okay. Next question is mine, and it's for Bibi. Bibi, there's been a lot of talk throughout the campaign and a lot of talk here tonight, a lot of insinuation that you're not properly running the county from a financial standpoint, particularly. How do you defend yourself against those accusations?
Well, the landfill is required to be the kind of setup that it is not part of the general fund. I don't know any publicly operated landfills that make money. This is a service to our community. And a lot of what you're talking about in losses are depreciation and unfunded liabilities that you don't end up paying for, but they're just there. There is a fund at the state level where if anything should happen, so that we'd have to pay these things, that the state will reimburse us, so it's not nearly as bad as it sounds. Private landfills are in it for the money, but it has been suggested that we raise our rates to $42 a ton, and I believe we'd lose every industry we had if we did. The industry don't want to pay as much as we offer, as we actually charge right now, because they are trying to save every penny that they can. And we do support the community with it. Sometimes we don't charge for things for private nonprofit organizations that need our help. And so it is not there to make money for the county.
Perry Lamb?
I think the financial problems are from mismanagement. I think in government has gotten too many layers where the person that is supposed to do the job sets up, a board of this people or a group of this people, and they're the ones they get their advice from. The job of the commissioner is to be on top of what's going on in the county. I think that is the best way to manage. That is the best way to make sure the county is being run financially sound. You cannot do it from behind a desk. And, you know, at some point, when you become a politician and you're going to sit behind a desk for a road commissioner, county commissioner, you know, it's time to do something else. You need to be involved one-on-one with your crews.
All right, Mr. Whitfield.
Yeah, our county has been very grossly mismanaged in my estimates and opinion. When BB took office, the last audit from 2000, there was $14.7 million worth of debt. In the 2015 audit, 15 years later, there is $53.2 million. This county now is facing over $80 million worth of debt. So the landfill is just one portion of our problem. When we end up with this type of debt in Walker County, we're having cash flow problems, and we're sending out notices to departments and elected officials stating we're going to have to cut and reduce spending because we're running out of money. When employees are worried about their paychecks bouncing on payday, we've got mismanagement problems system-wide. So it's time for a change in this county. It's time to have a fresh start and have a business approach to managing this county and get us out of this ditch and get us out of this over $80 million worth of debt and get us back on the road to recovery so we can get our county back where it needs to be.
Thank you.
All right. On the topic of a board of commissioners, I live in Catoosa County, and we have a board of commissioners who we pay a salary for each board member, and they hire a county manager who pretty much does the day-to-day business that Ms. Haskell is currently doing, the single sole commissioner. My question is, how is it beneficial to bring on a five-man board and a county manager doing the same job as one person is already doing? And how is it cost effective, and how is it going to be beneficial?
Our founding fathers set up our government to not be quick and easy. They set it up for checks and balances. Is a five-man board going to be expensive, more expensive than what we have now, a sole commissioner, or what y'all had, or what Dade County has? Don't know. We've got to figure out what type we're going to have. What type of board are we going to have? I have always been an advocate for Board of Commissioners because I believe in checks and balances. I believe in the spirit of what our founding fathers set us up to be. I never used it as a platform. I didn't change my view in the middle of the campaign. This is how I have felt, and this is what I've told people. We can make it run better. Our county can run better with a board. If it costs us a little bit more, is that really what we want to say is the reason why we don't want to have a board? Let's not worry about transparency. Let's not worry about checks and balances because we're too worried about saving $100,000. Where on the other side of it, if you don't have transparency, if you don't have checks and balances, how many millions can you lose from that? You've got to have checks and balances, period. Which type of board? I don't know. We've got to determine what our elected officials in Atlanta are going to let us do. I personally will go to them and talk to them. I don't have the Republican platform to boost me up and say, hey, I'm the one that's doing this. But I've always said that this is what I wanted. I've signed petitions in the past as far back as 3 years ago.